Today I'm demonstrating Sirsasana, or headstand pose. Sirsasana is often considered the king of all asana because it has just so many benefits. I've put all the benefits in the description box below, but it's the same as shoulder stand or Sarvangasana, and then there's additional benefits beyond that. The reason we don't practice it very often is because if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a dangerous posture, and there's a great deal of fear involved. So we'll see if we can work on those things together today. So there are two main types of headstand pose. There's tripod headstand, where you're balancing on your palms and on your head. And then there's the classical variation of Sirsasana, where you're putting almost all of your weight on your forearms. And this is the one I prefer because very little weight goes into your neck and your head when you do it this way, if you've developed the core and shoulder strength to do it. The reason why tripod headstand is very popular is because it takes a little bit less core strength and a lot less shoulder strength and shoulder flexibility to achieve the pose. So I'm going to demonstrate the classical variation of Sirsasana today. Before we do that, you would want to warm up your core muscles and then both the strength and the flexibility of your shoulders. So for core muscle warm-ups, you can do plank, side plank, things of that nature, Naukasana boat pose. For your shoulders, things like Garudasana arms are great for opening up the shoulders, or Gomukhasana. Any sort of binding you like to do in any poses is going to be great for opening the shoulders. As far as strengthening the shoulders, any sort of arm balances you want to do, and dolphin pose, which I am going to demonstrate in a minute because that's the pose that we use to launch into headstand. So go ahead and do some warm-ups, and then pause this video, come back when you're done. Welcome back. So, as I mentioned, dolphin pose is the pose that we'll be coming into to begin our transition into Sirsasana. So when you're going upside down, the biggest, most important thing is your base. So into your dolphin pose, which is the same as your down dog or your mountain pose, just on your forearms, you'll be interlacing the hands so you can balance on the forearms. Now, making an equilateral triangle like this is going to be your strongest base. Common mistake is to take the arms out like this, then you're balancing almost on a balance beam instead of on a stable base here. And the reason why this happens is because if you don't have the shoulder openness to bring your arms in like this and hold them there, then they tend to flop out. So how do you gauge this length? You just grab the elbows like so, then keep the elbows as they are as you interlace the hands together. So it looks like this, coming with the elbows directly into the shoulders, then you measure using your hands and come as so.
So that is the most important aspect of the base. There are a couple of more minor things. When you're interlacing your fingers, you can arrange your pinkies so that you're not balancing on just one pinky, but you're balancing on both, either by making a steeple or just by curling them in, wrapping one over the other. And the other thing to think about is the wrists. If you're balancing on your wrist and there's this little gap here between the wrist and the floor, it'll be a little bit less stable than if you articulate your wrist down so that the entirety of the wrist, forearm, and hand is pressing into the mat. So we'll begin from our dolphin. Then what we'll do is we'll walk our feet towards our hips and begin to lift the legs up. One at a time will be easier. It'll take a little bit less core strength. I'll demonstrate both one at a time and two at a time. And then we'll be stacking the hips directly over the shoulders. We're not coming into actual headstand just yet. We're just going to tuck the knees into the chest, hold for 3 breaths. If you can hold this position for 3 smooth breaths, you definitely have the core strength to come up from the headstand. It's so much easier to balance with your feet, hips, and shoulders all in one line than when you're using your abdominal strength to tuck the knees in. But this assures that when you do go into headstand, you're not going to fall over. I'm demonstrating with a door, or you use a wall, just for that psychological factor when you're first starting. But eventually, once you've determined that you have the core strength to do headstand, you can practice it in the middle of the room and it's no problem. So coming into dolphin pose, wrapping, hands on the elbows, making sure my wrists are pointing down, and I've got a little bit of space between my hands and the door or wall. Now I'm placing the crown of my head onto the mat. The back of my head is touching the base of my thumbs, tucking my toes, and coming into a variation of dolphin pose. Now from here, I begin to walk the feet in so that my hips start to stack directly over my shoulders. And then I'm going to tuck 1, 2, and breathe. And go ahead and come back. You may need to rest in child's pose. And so depending on how that went, that will determine your next step. Either going back and trying to get the full 3 seconds if you had to come out early, or if you're able to do 3 slow, relaxed breaths in that position, then you'll be ready to tuck and then bring legs straight up and into the full posture. And once you're in the full posture, because of the way the video is oriented, you won't be able to see my feet. The feet are not nearly as important as the base. I like to flex my feet so that I feel like I'm standing upside down, but you can also point your toes. It doesn't really matter. There are also some leg variations you can take, but the big thing is the base. So I'm going to come into the full variation. I showed you one leg at a time. I'm going to show with both legs tucking in now. Once again, measuring the distance between the elbows. Turning to dolphin pose and walking the feet in. And this time, I'm tucking both knees in and coming up to the pose. So right now I've got a little bit of weight on my head. If I press into the forearms more, I've lessened the weight. You only want about 10% of your weight on the head. And breathing here. And again, your legs will feel weightless if the feet, hips, and shoulders are all in one line. Now you can even press in more firmly through the forearms and get the crown of the head up off the mat. It's not necessary, it's just something that you should eventually develop the strength to do. Make sure you breathe here. And after a few breaths, you probably will find that your shoulders start to tire and you get more weight on your head. And that's sort of your gauges to when to come out. So the easiest way would be to do it one leg at a time again. Just bend one leg in, and then slowly take the foot down, take the other foot down. And again, if your breath is out of whack, you could rest in child's pose. Arms by the ankles will be a little bit of a nice release on the shoulders. And coming back into Parvatasana is also really nice. Just allow gravity to work on your cervical spine. So that's headstand, the way to come into it safely. Still not something you should practice if you're pregnant, if you're menstruating, if you have any pressure in your eyes, ears, or sinuses, or if you're feeling constipated on a particular day. But it's such a great practice to do. You should do some sort of an inversion every day, whether that's Sirsasana, Sarvangasana, Viparita Karani, something that you can handle and manage and do as a daily practice. It'll be so beneficial, so many benefits. Namaste.